Rita! It's as if we're reminding you of what your name is, really. Rita, that's you in the corner. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. I'm pleased to. You're looking all very, as I was saying off air just now, very summery and splendiferous, and you even turned lights on to make that shirt of yours shine brighter.
I did. I did indeed. Try and pretend that I'm a professional and all of that.
Well, I do that every day. It doesn't work. All right, now look, you have various subjects that we talk about over the time. Some people relate to them, some people don't, and but it's not for everybody. But I think there is an element of what you talk about that affects somebody in some way, whether they accept it or not. So this morning, what are we talking about, young Rita?
So we're talking about a phenomenon which is sort of sweeping not just the UK, but quite a lot of Western society, especially among the sort of millennial generation, which is called quiet quitting, and why it's happening and how we could actually do things as employers and companies. I say this in terms of being an employer of staff, and how we can actually do things which would allow us to sort of circumvent the circumstances which are causing it. So what is quiet quitting? Well, quiet quitting is essentially employees saying, I need to keep my job because I need to pay my bills because there's a cost of living crisis, but I hate my job, I don't like the company, I don't like my boss, so I'm going to do as little as humanly possible to keep my job without actually putting effort in. So quiet quitting is essentially this new revolution of employees basically doing the absolute bare minimum that allows them to retain their employment, but actually not really working for the company.
Is that could you put that as sort of an in-house protest in a way? Could you consider that a protest? I mean, might some people look at that and say, well, there's a lot of people striking at the moment for various reasons, be it solicitors, be it dock workers, whatever it happens to be. Would that not be a sort of borderline protest?
It is to a point. I think a protest of any description is there to actually be seen by the masses, to be seen by the employer, to have a sense of change. Quiet quitting is done in the shadows. It's done when no one really knows it's happening. And so I wouldn't be able to really put it in the category of protest, because it's there purely for the benefit of that one individual rather than for the benefit as a group as a whole. So you're not quiet quitting to protest in order to get a pay rise for everybody. You're quiet quitting just to save yourself, basically, to cover your own back. Right. And the reason it's happening, I believe, is because employers have spent many, many decades treating employees as commodities in terms of as a number. So there's this sort of, you'll hear phrases like B2C, B2B, business to business, business to customer, right? These sort of ways of selling and interacting with people. But I believe that there's a new revolution across the board, which isn't B2B or B2C, it's H to H, which is just human to human. And at the moment, employees, especially because of the pandemic and the lockdown, where they actually had time, yes, pubs weren't open, but they had time to explore other aspects of their life that they never thought they'd get a chance to do. They got a chance to explore aspects of their own family life that they never thought they'd get a chance to do. And actually, since the lockdowns have happened, employees have realized their own individuality and their own needs outside of the workplace. But I don't think all employers have caught up. They're still treating them like commodities. And actually, we need to see employees, whether it's as a janitor or whether it's as a chief financial officer, whatever it might be, not just as their job title, but as a human being as a whole, because they have so many facets to them that maybe aren't being completely utilized and appreciated and valued and nurtured to the best of their ability. So if you've got someone who's, really, really good with people, like a massively people person, and you've stuck them in the back office inputting data. Can they do the job? Yes. Is it the best way to value them and utilize their skills? Probably not. And vice versa. If you've got a complete introvert who's relatively nervous of new people and new environments, and you've put them in a front-facing customer sales role, can they do it? Yes. Should they be? And is it the best use of their expertise? Because everyone has expertise, we just often don't match up the expertise with the role. Is it probably using it to the best? Absolutely not. So what we have in my company, and this is something that I took, if anyone wants to go and read her book, it's called Beyond Happiness. There's a woman called Jen Lim, who was a co-founder of a company called Zappos. Zappos essentially started out as a online shoe retailer. I mean, that doesn't sound that particularly interesting or, about happiness, but it started off as an online shoe company. And they got told, you're never going to get anywhere because you're trying to compete with, the Amazons and everything of the world. It's never going to happen. But their ethos was, it's all about happiness of the employee, happiness of the customer. And so they had certain protocols where, you buy the shoes, and if you're not completely happy with them within a week, you can send them back. We'll pay the return, we'll pay the fees, we'll do everything, and we'll your relation advisor, because they had, you get a specific person that deals with you, will help you to find a pair that does make you happy. And because of this ethos, they developed really, really happy customers, but also they had the same sort of ethos with their employees and looking at how they could make them happy. And it rubs off. So, as an example, all right, so Zappos is a shoe company, right? I mean, it's branched out now, but at this point. And there was a woman, which was a customer, who was at a hotel, right? And she'd had a few too many to drink.
No,
And
really?
few too many to drink. And she was basically in the lobby of this hotel shouting at the reception desk saying, I want pizza, and they were like, we don't have pizza, I want pizza. And she's screaming and everything going on. She goes, you know what I'm going to do? She's obviously quite drunk. I'm going to call my Zappos sales advisor. And they were like, okay, no one wanted to argue with her. So she calls the Zappos sales advisor who sells shoes and says, I want pizzas. I'm at this hotel and I want 7 pizzas for me and all my friends. And they're like, we're not a pizza company. We're a shoe company. She went, yeah, but I want pizzas and I want them for my friends. We're a shoe company. And she says, you said that your job is to make me happy. What makes me happy in this minute is pizza.
Pizza, yeah.
And the employee, because they were treated with such respect and with such value, went well above and beyond and said, okay, what kind of pizzas? Where are you? And she told them. They said, would it be okay if we use the card that you have on file? She said, yes. And they organized from a local delivery company 7 pizzas to turn up at the hotel within the space of 20 minutes. And this woman, the reason I know this story is she then went and told everybody, because word of mouth, like, oh my goodness, what a big sort of influence that has. And because of that, Zappos then flew through the roof, because this kind of story gets around, right?
Yeah.
Moral of the story is, if you treat your employees in a way that nurtures and nourishes them as human beings, they're going to do the same for your customers, which is then going to have massive implications for your business.
Yeah.
And the way that Jen Lim, who is the founder of that company, she talks about the greenhouses, where we each have, as an individual person, our own greenhouse that we're nurturing, but we need, as a company owner, business owner, director, executive, whatever it is, our greenhouse needs to allow other greenhouses to grow.
Yeah.
So we need to nurture each greenhouse as they go, and rather than just treating it as numbers and, this person is worth £9 an hour to me. No, this person is Jessica. She's a mum of 3. She's single. She doesn't have childcare. Loves playing piano. Whatever it is, seeing Jessica as a whole human rather than as a cost per hour. So I think it's something that employers need to start to appreciate, that we're not going back. It isn't going to go back to the way it used to be. It isn't going to go back to treat the employee like, whatever you want, because...
Well, here's the thing. I've seen this many times, whereby that if you don't treat people in the right way, but what amazes me is even the employer, the directors, the managers and stuff, and further up the chain, they're human anyway. Does it not follow that they might not think, well, hang on, how would I like to be treated? How would people like to speak to me? Or do they get so far up their proverbials that they're disconnected from reality in the real world? I mean, I've met so many people who have abundance of finance and money and property and all the rest of it, and some of them are so disconnected from reality because money buys them everything they want. But is it what they need? So is it the problem that the employer themselves, the management, have lost something in humanity themselves that they then can't impart that to their employee?
I think you could say that about a small percentage. What I found is that, yes, there are certain people, we won't talk about government right now. There are certain people where money is so abundant that they have no concept of the reality that's hitting everybody else. That is absolutely true. That percentage of people is very small. What you'll usually find in terms of directors, CEOs, CFOs, COOs, is that actually they have as many problems as somebody who's on the very first rung of the ladder. The problems are just bigger. They're more amplified. And the reason that they're not creating this greenhouse effect is actually they're not looking after themselves. The number of women, so I work with a lot of executive women, the number of women I work with who during the pandemic, the stress that they had as chief executive officers, as global head of people, the stress that they had trying to ensure that the company stayed afloat and people's lives weren't ruined was enormous. The amount of stress that these executives and directors had saying, I'm not going to pay myself a salary so that all of my staff can have, their top up of salary so that they can feed their families, so that they can live, is unbelievable. I would say that the vast majority of people in an executive position are really, really caring. The problem there lies that they don't care for themselves. And when they don't care for themselves enough, they don't have enough of that empathetic energy to then overflow and give to others. Mm-hmm. When you're running on fumes, it's very hard to then have enough in yourself to then be able to give on a more valuable basis to other people. Yes,
so
there are.
Is this something that you can impart to people? For instance, you said you work with a number of executives and high-powered business people and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, however high-powered they are, they're still human nonetheless. But the point being, is it something that you can impart to them? Is it the fact that you can make them feel better about themselves or then pass that down the line? Is that where you're coming from here?
Yeah, so it's, I'll give an example. One woman that I work with is a technical director for a massive global corporation. So they've got probably about 4,000 staff worldwide. And we looked at her calendar and there wasn't a single gap. I was like, where do you have lunch? She went, oh, I don't have time. You just work through lunch. That's what everyone does. And I've been guilty of this when I used to, work for somebody else. And I was on a break, in massive air quotes. I wasn't on a break, I was working. And I said, that's not okay. And we talked through it. And actually what then happened was they created a well-being hour for the entirety of the company. So for 1 hour between 12 and 1, everyone has to go offline. Everyone goes offline. Everyone has 1 hour where it's lunch, see their family, go for a walk, whatever it might be. They make that hour obligatory where no one can be online working. So that has made a huge impact because people are seeing their families in the middle of the day. People are actually getting some fresh air in the middle of the day. People are moving. Their health, their posture is getting better, all because we implemented 1 hour a day across the board. Productivity has gone up because of that. And that was me just working with one woman and we had a bit of a brainwave. So...
Yeah, but you came about it from the fact that you'd been in that position and you'd seen it from different sides. So your experience was then imparted to this other person, which then had another knock-on experience, which hopefully from the other employees and managers down the line will then have another knock-on.
Yeah.
And that's the way forward. And I think that's what you're looking at here. Got a message from Jeff here in Braintree. He says, morning, please send pizza. He's now feeling hungry. So
call Zappos.
but he's got no shoes to go with it at the moment. So I just thought I'd make that clear. Well, fantastic. So if people want to know more, how do they get in touch, Rita?
So you can email me, Rita at thehealthandfitnesscoach.co.uk, visit my website and go to the contact us page, which is thehealthandfitnesscoach.co.uk. You can WhatsApp me on 077 6969 0679 or search for Rita Trotter or the Health and Fitness Coach on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you'll find me somewhere.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Listen, you have a great day, and you can get back to the gym soon, no doubt. You'll be there with throwing the iron all over the place.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on a Fresh God Ready on a Tuesday. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Ta-da. Bye-bye. That's